Welcome back to SnowRunner, guys, and today we're going to be going in depth not only on console mods themselves, but also the differences between some mods that are basically able to be ported between PC and console with minimal adjustment, and then mods that are designed for PC itself. And we're also going to be going a little bit more in depth on how private mods work, how paid mods work, because I genuinely want to shed some light on what these terms mean and what these vehicles actually are and what they mean to the game, especially because I've been posting a lot of them lately. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, something else that I would like to put out there right from the start of the video is the subject of this video is not going to be, bashing any kind of system. It's not going to be about saying, oh, PC is better than console because this, or console is better than PC because this. Because at the end of the day, we all play this game because we enjoy it, and we all use mods because we do enjoy them. And we want to just drive trucks and have fun with trucks, whether that means going mudding on a mud map, or going to a map like Stadium Super Trucks to do laps around a racetrack, or maybe going to your favorite objective-driven map and hauling logs, or hauling cargo, or using a scout to explore. All of these things really go back to the core reason of why we play this game, and that is the fun of playing the game itself. Now, before we get too deep into this, let's go ahead and cover some of the basics of what we're going to cover in this video. And first off, I want to just say that there are so many incredibly talented mod creators, both on the PC side and the console side, and technically I know that all mods originally have to be created and tested on PC in order to make their way to consoles, but what I really mean by that is, there are mod creators focusing on both sides of the equation, which I think is incredibly cool. For example, the truck I'm driving right now, made by John Hot Rod, if you looked at this truck way back when console modding originally started in terms of SnowRunner, I would have never thought that something of this quality level would be able to make its way to consoles, but through careful optimization and also careful planning of what pieces to use and what pieces to make smaller, that is how he went about getting this thing onto consoles. Of course, that is a extremely simplified way of explaining it, because John Hot Rod himself would have a much more detailed explanation than that, but that gets the point across. Now, let's just say you're completely new to SnowRunner, and you see someone online, wherever, using a mod that you haven't seen before, or using a mod that hasn't really been seen in a lot of places, and you go, holy crap, that mod looks really cool, but I can't find it on my mod browser. The reason for that is most likely because, even if it's not on the Mod.io website, that's most likely because it is a private mod. Now, private mods work in several different ways. Some mod creators use private mods as a way to test mods that they are developing, and then of course allow access to members of their testing team so that they can make sure to test the mod in a variety of different areas and on a variety of different systems to make sure it works before they release them to the public. The other way that private mods are generally used is for paid access mods. Now, paid access mods are essentially exactly what they sound like. You would pay a certain amount of money to be given access to a particular mod. Now, that by itself in a concept might sound a little odd to some of you, because mods are generally free content, and I completely understand where one would be coming from by thinking of mods as free content. However, when it comes to a lot of these paid access mods, or premium mods as some people call them, usually the reason why they require a sort of paid entry is generally because the models, the 3D models, are extremely expensive for a lot of these mods. There are some mods in SnowRunner where just the model itself, not including tires, axles, suspension, wheels, just the base model of the truck, could be over $1, $2, $3, $4, even $500 just to start with. And that's also not including the time that the modders themselves spend rigging everything up to be able to function within SnowRunner, and of course animating everything like the suspension behavior, the steering system behavior, and then adding all of the models for the wheels and tires, which are again separate from the base vehicle. And that also doesn't include the work that a lot of these modders do on making the lights function properly, especially if they are LED lights, because every single particle of light has to be placed individually in order to get them to look correct and in order to get them to function properly. And this brings us to my next topic, RAM, or short for random access memory. Now, as console players will know, the console version of SnowRunner will automatically limit the RAM that you can use, but it will do it dynamically based on which console you are on. So say if you're on an Xbox Series X, you will have more RAM that you are allowed to use than if you are on an Xbox Series S, or maybe, let's say, an older PlayStation 4, but it all depends on a variety of different things that go into the game calculating your RAM limit. Now, I've done some videos before on why the RAM limit was imposed, but just to go ahead and catch some of you guys up on why the RAM limit was imposed, essentially, when console mods were originally added to SnowRunner, there were a lot of people that were installing and enabling way more mods than their console would handle, and then their consoles were crashing, and instead of realizing that it was the fact that they had too many mods turned on, they thought it was the game, and then they literally went into the game store on their respective system, Xbox or PlayStation, and actually were filing complaints against the game and blaming it on the game, and if those complaints continued to happen, the game would have actually been removed from the online stores of those particular systems. So the reason why we have a RAM limit, and the reason why we need to have a RAM limit on consoles, is because the game would have actually legitimately been removed from the online stores if we didn't have one. Now let's jump into one of the most common questions asked about mods like this one, for example, which is Yeah Buddy's Chevy Silverado High Country, but I also see these questions get asked about several other mods that I've shown that are either private PC mods or in-development PC mods or paid access PC mods. Now, there is a variety of reasons why, say, something like this wouldn't necessarily be able to make its way to consoles, and yeah, we kind of flipped it over right there, but you know what? Hit the jump at the wrong angle and stuff happened. It's all good. But once again, and that is not to say that consoles are not good or to talk down on console players, because look, there was a very long time where I didn't even have a gaming PC, and I completely understand how it can be very frustrating as a console-dedicated player to not have access to PC content. I get that, right? I 100% understand that, and there is no reason for, people on PC to be, down-talking people on console. And that's not something I would ever do either. I own PC and console systems, so there's no reason for, in my mind, anyone to talk down either choice or either option, right? A console is more of in these days, it really acts as an entertainment hub that lives in your living room, whereas a PC is usually a more dedicatedly built machine that, once again, usually also ranges in a higher cost. But that higher cost also tends to give you access to more capable hardware, and thus is able to run more intensive and more demanding 3D models and simulations. Which once again circles us back to mods like this, which just the wheel and tire list, not even the truck itself, just the wheel and tire list for this truck would go over the RAM limit for a console mod, which is wild to me. However, the mod's creator, Yeah Buddy, had a very specific vision for this truck and wanted to see that vision fully realized, and the only hardware that would allow him to do that was the hardware that was available on PC, because once again, there are other restrictions that go into console mods as well, like, for example, licensing issues, which is why mods that you see on console don't have any branding. But even beyond that, what I've heard from several mod creators that have gotten multiple mods onto the console mod browser, the list of requirements seems to never have been fully dedicatedly defined, and I think that they tried to define it at one point, but then there were certain things where a mod that might pass on one day may get updated, and something that wasn't necessarily a problem before becomes a problem due to a change in requirements. So the requirements have never necessarily been fully constant. Now, there are some parts of the requirements that are fully constant, but console modding requires you to always be willing to go back and edit code in your mod in order to keep it friendly to the game itself. Which really, when you break down the process, it really does, at least for me, gives me mad respect for modders that really decide to go either way, because they're going to, if they go the console route, they're going to spend a lot of their time working on post-mod release updates or post-mod release code changes, whereas on PC, they're going to be spending that time maybe adding different features to the mod itself, or potentially polishing their own mod coding, or maybe optimizing features that that they already have in the truck. So essentially, they're going to be spending time working on the mod across the board, and it all comes down to the modder themselves on what they choose to do and the direction they choose to go. And with that being said, I do encourage you guys to engage with the mod creator community and, of course, join their Discords, support their builds, and support their projects, but also I encourage you to do so in a way that is respectful of the decisions that the mod creator themselves make. Now, if someone decides that they want to develop a mod for console, or they want to maybe convert a PC mod to console, great, that's awesome, that's amazing, absolutely more power to them. If they decide that they want to make a mod that is maybe a little bit higher detailed and they don't necessarily want to work within the defined console restrictions and maybe go all out with a mod and build it for PC, that's also great. And because either way, they are allowing themselves to realize what they want to see out of the mod they create. Now, of course, commissioned projects are a little bit different because you're working with, you know, a client, right? You're working with someone that has commissioned a truck from you, essentially, has paid you as a mod creator to do the work to get that truck into the game. That's one thing, because if you were to commission a mod, you would then be guiding the process of creating that mod and guiding what you wanted them to put into it and what you wanted them to put on it. Whereas, you know, mods that have been created as personal projects are literally just mods that the creators themselves wanted to create and wanted to spend the time and spend the hours putting into the game for their own sheer enjoyment. And now that we're coming towards the end of the video, I hope that you guys learned something about the mod creation process, but I hope you also learned something about the differences between, you know, a mod being on console versus a mod being on PC, and how, you know, just because a mod doesn't make its way to console doesn't necessarily mean that the creator didn't want it to be on console, or because they don't like console or they don't like console players. I see that out there a lot where somebody's like, oh, they didn't put this on console because they just don't like console players. That's not the case at all. It's just the restrictions that they would have to work in wouldn't necessarily let some mod creators realize the full potential of the mod they wanted to create. And if y'all enjoyed this video, please do let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and I will see y'all later.